Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shreshtam Manum Api Shatiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupurim Maturim Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shriyataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Vishnu Sahasranam, name 773, Chatuh-vyuha. This talk is going to have quite a bit of technical discussion. You may think on Janmastami, today is Janmastami, we should have just nectar and pastimes, but we're going to have nectar, but not just pastimes. Also nectar to talk about the science of God, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. So Chatuh-vyuha, this name, those who are familiar with reading Srila Prabhupada's books, they will be familiar with this name. It also came up way back in the 15th verse of Vishnu Sahasranam, name 140, according to the numbering system we're following. The basic meaning, or he who adopts four forms, although they're eternal forms, for the purpose of creation and so on. Now this is a big discussion. We'll find as in the first the first Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll find a long purport from Srila Prabhupada based on a long purport from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, which is based on writings from Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, and even before that, way back, going to the Yamunacharya, even before Ramanujacharya, and the Agama Pramanya, which was Agama Pramanya is an important work by Yamunacharya in which he rebuts accusations of the Shankara Sampradaya that Pancharatra is not Vedic, or that it's anti-Vedic. And this theme was taken up further by Ramanuja himself, Sri Ramanujacharya, and his later followers. The discussion of the Chatuh-vyuha is in there. Now, one point that Shankara attacked, that, and his followers attacked, that it's stated in Pancharatra that there is Vasudeva, from him comes Sankarshan, and from him Pradyumna, and from him Aniruddha. Then how can you say that they're all eternal forms if one comes from the other? And how can you all say they're all Brahman, they're the same in the language that we use, the personality of Godhead? So there's considerable discussion on this. You'll find in Srila Prabhupada's purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not going to get into it. If you want, you can read it, because it is, well, we could get into it in some detail, but those details I'm not going to get into here now, because as with any of the names, there could be protests against the Vaishnava Siddhanta by Mayavadis and others, and rebuttals and this and that. But our main point in discussing Vishnu Sahasranam is to appreciate the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and rebutting other theories, well, that comes in to some extent. But this is mostly, I'm speaking for my own elucidation, my own purification, and for the elucidation and purification of others also who may appreciate the glories, the grandeur, the lovability of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to whom we have dedicated our existence. This name, as I said, Chatuh-vyuha, is already featured. This is the second time here in Vishnu Sahasranam. So I'll give somewhat of a recap. It's quite some time ago. I suppose that'll be a few years ago, won't it? Because I don't know, maybe how many, 7, 8, 9 years ago that I spoke on that, and in some additional discussion also. Now, the Pancharatra describes Narayan as supreme. So there is a complete harmony between Pancharatra and Bhagavatam, but it may not be obvious to everyone, because we take Krishna as the original form of God. But we don't have any argument. How can we have argument with Pancharatra Shastra if they say Narayan is the original form? That's quite true from our perspective sitting down here, because the first, or what the original form, you can say, although they're all eternal, Narayan is a para form. That means the transcendental form in the spiritual world, in Vaikuntha, who stays there, called Paravasudeva, the Vasudeva in the spiritual world, not the one who shows himself sometimes in the material world and sometimes not. Is Paravasudeva, the one who's always situated in the material world, sometimes called Vaikunthanathan, and he's seen there sitting, surrounded by his immediate Shaktis, or wives. And Shakti, for him, is his wives, Shri, Bhu, and Nila. And who lives in Vaikuntha? He's surrounded by the Nitya Suris, those great devotees who live there, and they're always praising the Supreme Lord, singing His glories very nicely. There's no hunger, thirst, sleep, exhaustion, pain of any kind, no other worldly problems. They're always the eternal associates of the Lord in Vaikuntha are just absorbed in thought of Him, in glorification of His divine qualities and of His consorts, especially Lakshmi, Sri. So this is according to the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, and according to Pancharatra, the highest form of Vishnu. Then he expands himself into his Vyuha form from Para, as then he expands himself and enters, or there's a touch. He doesn't actually touch the material world, but he's arranging for that. So these are the Chatuh-vyuha, when he expands himself as Vasudeva, And that Vasudeva, the first Vasudeva of the Chatuh-vyuha, is in the Yoga Nidra, lying on Adi Shesha in the milk ocean. So Vyuha means expansion. He expands with a very smiling face, facing east. You may wonder why the temples are facing east. Well, that he's facing east. Then lion-faced Sankarshan is facing south. Varaha-faced Pradyumna is facing north. And Rudra-faced Aniruddha is facing west. And during the time of universal destruction, these other three forms merge again into Vasudeva. The number 3 is Vibhava, which is, the word is very similar to Vaibhava, but that means he who comes down into the world, the avatars, to establish dharma and to protect the world. He comes down to this earth or to other parts of the universe, and he enters this world, but he's not a part of it. He's in his completely spiritual form. He is his completely spiritual form. Rama, Krishna, they're very famous among the avatars. They're called Vibhav or Vaibhav. It's given in our Bhagavad commentary. Usually the word is Vibhav in the Sri Vaishnava literature. There are 3 types, namely Purna, complete, Angsha, partial, and Avesh, which means entering into or empowered. So Rama, Krishna, Vamana, and Parashuram are Purna avatars. Again, I'm saying according to the classification given by the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. Matsya and Varaha are Angsha avatars, and Narasimha is an Avesh avatar. Antaryami is what we say, it literally means the indweller within every heart, in the heart of every jiva. So he's not seen. The others can be seen, but we can't see the Antaryami in that form. Paramatma, that's what we say, super soul. And then the 5th form, he comes, is his most merciful form in the material world, is the archa form, in which he is worshipped, the deity. The avatars, they come and they go. Today we're celebrating Janmastami. Krishna has come. Well, not quite. We're waiting. We're expected around midnight. So he comes, and after some time he goes. But the archa form, he may also manifest himself at some time, and other times not. But the point is that he is available for worship, even at all times, whenever his avatars, his Vibhava avatars, are not present. Antaryami within the heart. Well, the yogis can see him. Dhyana avastita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha. It's very difficult to see him, but if one is a consummate yogi, he can see Antaryami within the heart. But for ordinary people, he appears in the deity form. And ordinary people means pious people, they will appreciate. But even they don't have to be great devotees or anything. And since this coronavirus pandemic started, the temples have been closed or very restricted entrance. But regularly I used to visit, ISKCON temples. And I was going to say regularly. I used to, at least once a year, I would visit Sri Rangam, and we see always so many crowds of people coming for darshan of Ranganatha Swami, and what to speak of at Tirupati and other very popular temples, Nathdwara. So many people come. They're what you may say ordinary people. They're not, most of them are not very, very religious people, but they come, and the Lord benefits them by His kind presence. It's very easy. You just go and see, and there's no pre-qualification. I wouldn't be surprised if many people don't even take bath nowadays before they go in a temple. It used to be that people would follow so many rules before going in a temple, but now not. It doesn't seem like that. And then for those devotees who are very serious to worship the Lord, they can worship the deity. Of course, Kali Kale Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. In Kali Yuga, we worship Krishna's avatar, his descendants, the holy name. So these 5 forms of 5 manifestations of various forms are given there, and today we're discussing the vyuha, which can also be called, as in this name, the Chatuh-vyuha. These the para, the forms beyond this world in Vaikuntha, in Chatuh-vyuha, they are known only to the Nityasuris, the fully perfect devotees can see them and interact with them. As far as the others, well, yes, the avatars are there and they come, but again, they're only there for a short time. So, and they may interact with all kinds, just like Krishna. He purified so many people by his presence when he was personally there. Even Kubja, she's not in the category of a pure devotee on the level of the eternally perfect, but Krishna lifted her up, literally lifted her up. He jacked her up by her chin and made the ugly woman into a beautiful woman. But to fully interact with Krishna, even when his presence, requires to be a great devotee. And the others, the Antaryami is always present in the material world, and archa is available to us also. So view. If we see the Sanskrit derivation, it means to divide, to distribute, to separate, to resolve, words like this. And according to again, following the Sri Vaishnava discussion here, because it's very, very important for them, this discussion of the Chatuh-vyuha. For us, we're not. I'm saying as Gauriyas, it's not unimportant, but we don't stress so much on the majestic forms. We stress more on the loving forms, and even our attitude to Rama and to Narasimha, who we also worship, but our whole attitude is more compared to Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. And I'm not saying this to make some polemic, and it's a general statement, but I'm just going to say that our attitude is less on stressing the majesty and more on stressing the rasa. And again, it's not missing in Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, but it is very sweet in Gaudiya. We look from the platform of love. Of course, that you have to come to a very high level to actually be on the platform of love, but this rasa vichar is always there when Gauriyas are discussing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even we use that term, Srila Prabhupada gave to us. Purushang Paramam Divyam, we have in the Gita, which can be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have that term, and we are looking up to him, but at the same time, we are aspiring to kiss Krishna, to be embraced and to embrace him. That is our ultimate aspiration. So, the other sampradaya, well, the South Indian sampradayas, we can say, the Madhva sampradaya, Sri Vaishnava sampradaya, they place, if you want to say, the original form, Narayana. But then again, Madhva say all the forms are equal. You can't differentiate between them. Anyone's being higher or lower. Then we have Nimbak Sampradaya and Vallabh Sampradaya. They emphasize more on Krishna. But anyway, they say Narayan, he expands himself into the four forms for the purpose of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material universes. With the idea that in Vaikuntha, the Supreme Lord is just very calm, peaceful, an ocean of nectar, no doubt, but it's an ocean without waves. There are no waves. Sometimes we hear that phrase, someone creates waves, they make some kind of sensation. There's no sensation in Vaikuntha. There's really nothing to get excited about per se, but rather there is glorification of the Supreme Lord, but in what we would call in the material world the mode of goodness, sattva gun, but that is Shuddha Sattva. And all is very calm, peaceful, happy in the service of the Lord there. Like a great ocean, he's limitless and unfathomable. This is his form in Vaikuntha. His knowledge and bliss are there. There's no obstruction to that. As in the material world, the Nitya Suris live there, and the Muktas, those who have become freed from material existence by worshipping the Lord. So the Paraform has all the 6 attributes in full. Jnana, knowledge; Bala, strength; Aishvarya, opulence or wealth; Virya, and Shakti. They're Virya, Shakti, and Tejas. They are categorized separately, although they're very similar. So the view. So this is Paravasudev, and then the vyuha of Bhagavan, the vyuha mode, we can say, the expansions. They have different, the 4 different forms. They manifest. They manifest. Out of these 6 attributes, each of the forms manifests 2 of them especially. So Vasudeva, because he has all the attributes in full, and they're all equally prominent, but the other forms, they also have all the other attributes, but Sankarshan particularly has Jnana and Bala, Pradyumna, Aishvarya and Virya, and Aniruddha, Shakti and Tejas. In the Chatuh-vyuha was explained by Parashara Bhatta in the first occurrence in Vishnu Sahasranam in terms of the vyuha incarnations, and here he's explaining, to avoid the redundancy or punar ukti, he explains in terms of the Vibhav incarnation of Narayana, who is Krishna. And again, this is Sri Vaishnava understanding and not that of Gaudiya understanding. Here are some verses from Bhagavatam which glorify these four forms: Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. These four are present in Dwaraka as Vasudev is Krishna in Dwaraka. Sankarshan is Baladev in Dwaraka. And then Pradyumna is the first son of Krishna. And Aniruddha is the first son of Pradyumna. But they're all of the Chatuh-vyuha. So, Akrura prayed to Krishna. Namaste Vasudevaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Sattvatang Pataye Namaha. Namaste Vasudevaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Sattvatang Pataye Namaha. Akrura prayed, obeisances to you, Lord of the Sattvatas. Sattvata means the devotees. Lord of the Sattvatas, and to your forms of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. We have in the 11th canto a verse which is almost the same. Just the last of the 4 lines is different. This is the mantra for worshipping the Supreme Lord in Dwarapa Yuga. Namaste Vasudevaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Tubhyang Bhagavate Namaha. I just have to make a little note. I just have to see. Where's my pen? So that's the meaning is the same, except that point about the Sattvata Pati, the Lord of the devotees, is not there. Just a second. Now, from the purport to this Bhagavatam, 11th canto, chapter 5, text 29, in which that Dwarapa Yuga mantra is given, I'm going to read from that. Although the Absolute Truth is one without a second, the Absolute Truth displays his unlimited opulences and potencies by expanding himself in innumerable plenary forms, of which the Chatuh-vyuha is a principal expansion. It might be a little difficult to catch all this. If you read it, it'll be easier to absorb. But anyway, let's listen and absorb what we can, and purification comes just by hearing. So, the original being is Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. When the Godhead manifests his primeval energies and opulences, he is called Sankarshana. Pradyumna is the basis of the Vishnu expansion, who is the soul of the entire universe, and Aniruddha is the basis of the personal manifestation of Vishnu as the supersoul of every living entity within the universe. That means of Antaryami, what we're speaking about. Among the 4 plenary expansions mentioned here, the original expansion is Vasudeva, and the other 3 are considered to be particular manifestations of him. Reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm giving the translation of Adi Leela chapter 1, text 77 to 8. When the Lord displays numerous forms with different features by his inconceivable potencies Such forms are called Vilas Vigrahas. Examples of such Vilas Vigrahas are Baladev, Narayan in Vaikuntha Dham, and the Chatuh-vyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 4. There is discussed how Krishna is the original form of Godhead, not Narayana. So, just 2 verses from that chapter I'm reading now. Narayana Chatuh-vyuha Matsyadhyavatar Yuga Manvantaravatara Jato Ache A Shobayashi Krishna Onge Hoi Obatirna Oiche Obatare Krishna Bhagavana Purna. Lord Narayana, the 4 primary expansions, that's the translation given for the Chatuh-vyuha, the 4 primary expansions, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, Matsya and other Leela incarnations, the Yuga avatars, the Manvantara incarnations, and as many other incarnations as there are, all descend in the body of Lord Krishna. In this way, the complete Supreme Godhead, Lord Krishna himself, appears. So if we want to do worship of Chatuh-vyuha, worship Krishna. We can do like that. They're all there, right in Krishna. Adi Leela, chapter 5, text 23 and 4. Mathura Dwarakaya Nija Rupa Prakashya Nana Rupe Bilashaye Chatuh-vyuha Hoya. Lord Krishna manifests his own form in Mathura and Dwaraka. He enjoys pastimes in various ways by expanding into the quadruple forms. That means the Chatuh-vyuha. Vasudeva Sankarshan Pradyumna Niruddha Sarva Chatuh-vyuha Angshi Turiya Vishuddha. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are the primary quadruple forms from whom all the other quadruple forms are manifested. They are all purely transcendental. And we're going to get into more technical stuff here. Pradyumna Bhatta points out that each of the Vyuha forms have their own distinct limbs, colors, ornaments, weapons, vehicles, flags, and so on. And that they assume these different forms. One major reason for this is so the devotees can meditate upon them and worship them in these different forms. The 4 states of meditation that are associated with each of these 4 forms, the consciousness in which one may approach them. Jagrata, the wakeful state. Svapna, the dream state. Shushupti, the state of deep sleep. And Turiya, the 4th state above all the others. In the Jagrata, the wakeful state, the external senses function. In the Swapna state, the external senses don't function, but the mind is active. In the deep sleep state, even the mind doesn't function directly, but there's only breathing. And in the Turiya state, then one is beyond all these other states. Now, I'm going to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, from Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami. You might think that, well, why discussing all this? It sounds all very technical, and Lord Chaitanya, he came and just gave us the nectar. Well, I'm going to read, if you think I'm cheating you or something like that by just talking a lot of technical stuff, well, I'm going to read from Lord Chaitanya's words to Sanatana Goswami. Lord Chaitanya thought this was important. And his immediate followers, the 6 Goswamis, they also wrote on these topics. So it's not unimportant. Don't think. Please do not think like that. So yeah, I'll read a few verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita with Srila Prabhupada's glorious translation. Vaibhav Prakashaya Prabhav Bilashe Ekoi Murte Baladev Bhava Bhede Bhashe. Sri Balaram is a Vaibhava Prakash manifestation of Krishna. He is also manifested in the original quadruple expansions of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. These are Prabhava Vilas expansions with different emotions. Yeah, they're manifested according to different emotions. Adi Chatuh-vyuha Iha Keho Nahisham Ananta Chatuh-vyuha Gane Prakatya Karan. The first expansion of the Chatuh-vyuha quadruple forms is unique. There is nothing to compare with them. That means there's Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and they expand again into another Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and there are so many forms generated like this. There's nothing to compare with them. These quadruple forms are the source of unlimited quadruple forms. Krishna Echari Prabhava Bilash Dwaraka Mathura Pure Nitya Ihabash. These four Prabhava pastime forms of Lord Krishna reside eternally in Dwaraka and Mathura. Echari Hoite Chobish Murti Parakash Ostra Bede Nama Bed Vaibhav Bilash. See, to translate this, you really have to know it's very technical language, and you have to really understand it to translate it, as Srila Prabhupada did. From the original quadruple expansions, 24 forms are manifested. They differ according to the placement of the weapons in their four hands. They are called Vaibhava Vilas. Punah Krishna Chatuh-vyuha Loya Purvarupe Parabhoma Madde Boishe Narayana Rupe. Lord Krishna again expands, and within the Paravyom, the spiritual sky, he is situated in fullness as the four-handed Narayana, accompanied by expansions of the original quadruple form. The expansions of the original quadruple form means the original Chatuh-vyuha. Remember, we're discussing the name Chatuh-vyuha here. Taha hoite puna Chatuh-vyuha parakash abarana rupe charidike jarbash. If you heard that, Chatuh-vyuha, the word came. Thus the original quadruple forms again manifest themselves in a second set of quadruple expansions. The residences of these second quadruple expansions cover the four directions. Chari jane puna pritok tin murti keshabadi jaha hoite bilashe purti. Again, these quadruple expansions expand three times, beginning with Keshav. That is the fulfillment of these pastime forms. Chakradi dharan bhede nama bheda shab Vasudeva Murti Keshav Narayan Madhav. Out of the Chatuh-vyuha there are three expansions of each and every form, and they are named differently according to the position of the weapons. The Vasudeva expansions are Keshava, Narayana and Madhava. Sankarshaner Murti Govinda Vishnu Madhusudan E Anna Govinda Nahe Brajendra Nandan. The expansions of Sankarshan are Govinda, Vishnu and Madhusudan. This Govinda is different from the original Govinda, for he is not the son of Maharaj Nanda. So Govinda refers not only to the son of Maharaj Nanda, but also refers to a Vishnu form, one of the expansions from the Chatuh-vyuha. Pradumna Murti Tribikram Bamon Sridhar Aniruddha Murti Hrishi Kesha Padmanabh Damoda. The expansions of Pradyumna are Trivikram, Vamana and Sridhara. The expansions of Aniruddha are Hrishikesha, Padmanabha, and Damodar. Dwadashmashe Devata Eba Jano Marga Shirshe Keshav Poshe Narayana. These 12 are the predominating deities of the 12 months. Keshav is the predominating deity of Agrahayana, and Narayana is the predominating deity of Posh. Maghe Devata Madhav Govinda Falgune Chaitre Vishnu Boishake Srimadhusudan. The predominating deity of the month of Magh is Madhava, and the predominating deity of the month of Falgun is Govinda. Vishnu is the predominating deity of Chaitra, and Madhusudan is the predominating deity of Boishak. Joishte Trivigram Ashare Bhaman Devesh Shravane Sridha Bhadre Deva Hrishikesh. In the month of Jeshta, the predominating deity is Trivigram. In Asha, the deity is Vamana. In Shravan, the deity is Sridhara. And in Bhadra, the deity is Hrishikesh. Right now, Janmastami. Bhadra months. Ashine Padmanabha Kartike Damoda Radha Damodar Anna Brajendra Korna. In the month of Ashwin, the predominating deity is Padmanabha, and in Kartik it is Damodar. This Damodar is different from Radha Damodar, the son of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. So that's interesting. We say Narayan. Kartik month is Damodar month. But here, the Damodar referred to, although in that month we celebrate the pastime of Damodar in Vrindavan, and Kartik month is very focused on Vrindavan, the pastimes there. But the name Damodar month comes from a Narayan form, not from, that's specifically stated here in Chaitanya Charitamrita, not from that Damodar in Vrindavan. Dadash tilak mantra e dwadashanam achamone e name sparshi tattochtan. When putting the 12 tilak marks on the 12 places of the body, one has to chant the mantra consisting of these 12 Vishnu names. So we know Om Keshavaya Namah, Om Narayana. Also, when one anoints the different parts of the body with water, these names should be chanted as one touches each part of the body. Chari jane bilash murti ar ashtajan tashabar namakahi shuno sanatan. From Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, there are 8 additional pastimes expansions. O Sanatan, please hear me as I mention their names. Lord Chaitanya speaking. Purushottam Achyuta Nrsimha Janadan Hari Krishna Adhokaja Upendra Ashtajan. The 8 pastime expansions are Purushottam, Achyuta, Nrsimha, Janadana, Hari Krishna, Adhokshaja, and Upendra. Vasudeva Bilash Dui Adhokaja Purushottam Sankarshana Bilash Upendra Achyuta Duijan. Of these 8 expansions, 2 are pastime forms of Vasudeva. Their names are Adhokshaja and Purushottam. The 2 pastime forms of Sankarshana are Upendra and Achyuta. Pradyumna Bilash Nrsimha Janadan Aniruddha Bilash Hari Krishna Duijan. The pastime forms of Pradyumna are Nrsimha and Janadan, and the pastime forms of Aniruddha are Hari and Krishna. Chabish Murti Prabha Bilash Pradhan Astradharan Bede Dare Bhinna Bhinna Nam. All these 24 forms constitute the chief Prabha Vilas pastime forms of the Lord. They are named differently according to the position of the weapons in their hands. And remember, these are all expansions of Chatuh-vyuha, who we're discussing. Iha modde jaha hoy archa besha bhed, Shei hoy bilash boy bibed. Of all these, the forms that differ in dress and features are distinguished as Vaibhava Vilas. Padmanabha Trivikram Nrsimha Bhaman, Hari Krishna Adi Hoy Akare Bilakharn. Of them, Padmanabha, Trivikram, Nrsimha, Vamana, Hari Krishna, and so on, all have different features. And again, these are all the Vishnu forms. So not necessarily that they have exactly the same form as Vamana and Krishna, Nrsimha, of the Vibhava forms, the ones who expand for pastimes. Krishna Prabhabilash Vasudevadi Charijan, Shri Charijan Abhilash Bingshoti Garnan. Vasudeva and the three others are direct Prabhav pastime forms of Lord Krishna. Of these quadruple forms, the pastime expansions are 20 in number. Iha Shaba Pritak Vaikuntha Parabom Dhame, Purbadi Ashtadike Tin Krame. All these forms preside over different Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual world. Beginning from the east in consecutive order, there are 3 different forms in each of the 8 directions. Jadapi Parabom Shabaka Nitodham, Tatapi Brahmande Karo Kaho Shanidhan. Although they all have their residences eternally in the spiritual sky, some of them are situated within the material universes. Parabhoma Madde Narayana Nityostiti, Parabhom Upari Krishna Loke Vibhuti. There is an eternal residence of Narayana in the spiritual sky. In the upper portion of the spiritual sky is a planet known as Krishna Loka, which is filled with all opulences. E Krishna Loka hoy, Tribidha Praka, Gokulaka Mathuraka, Dwarakakya. The planet of Krishna Loka is divided into 3 sections: Gokul, Mathura, and Dwaraka. Mathur ate Keshave Nitya Shanidhan, Nilachale Purushottam Jagannathanam. Lord Keshav eternally resides at Mathura, and Lord Purushottam, known by the name Jagannath, eternally resides at Nilachala. Prayage Madhav, Mandare Shimadhusudan, Anandaranye Basudev Padmanabha Janardhan. At Prayag, the Lord is situated as Bindu Madhava, and at Mandar Parvat, the Lord is known as Madhusudana. Vasudev, Padmanabha, and Janardhan reside at Anandaranya, wherever that might be. Vishnu Kanchite Vishnu Hari Rahe Mayapure, Oichaya Nana Murti Brahmanda Bhitare. At Vishnu Kanchi there is Lord Vishnu. At Mayapur, Lord Hari, and throughout the universe a variety of other forms. It appears that this Mayapur, this refers to Haridwar, not to the Mayapur we know and adore as the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Emoto Brahmanda Madde Shaba Parakash, Shaptadipe Nabakande Jaha Bilash. Within the universe, the Lord is situated in different spiritual manifestations. These are situated on 7 islands in 9 sections. Thus, their pastimes are going on. Shabatra Prakash Ta Bhakti Shukadite Jagater Adharmanashi Dharma Sthapite. The Lord is situated in all the universes in different forms just to please His devotees. Thus the Lord destroys irreligious principles and establishes religious principles. Iha modde karo hoy avatare garnan, joiche Vishnu trivigram Nrsimha Bhaman. Of these forms, some are considered incarnations. Examples are Lord Vishnu, Lord Trivikram, Lord Nrsimha, and Lord Vamana. Ashtradhriti bhed nama bhede karan chakradi dharan bheda shuno sanatan. And then he goes on to, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on to explain the different Vishnu Murtis according to the position that how they're named according to the different places, the four hands, and which hand there's upper right hand, lower right hand, upper left hand, and lower left hand. And in this way, with the Shankaracharya Gada Padma placed in different hands, we have 24 forms of the Lord. Also, another Chatuh-vyuha are considered Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrugna, who are expanded from Vasudeva and others. And Shankaracharya, he also quotes, it said the words of Vyas, but exactly where it's not stated. Vyuha atmanam chaturdhurvai vasudevadi murtibhihi shrishtyadin prakarotyesha vishrutatma janardana. So he was known as Vishrutatma Janardana. It divides himself into four forms and performs the functions such as creation. So similar things are given in the Madhva commentary I'm looking at. Then another explanation of Chatuh-vyuha, quite different altogether, is that he manifests himself as the original Purush, the Chanda Purush, the Veda Purush, and the Mahapurush. And this is Shankaracharya taking the meaning of the name Vyuha as manifestation and quoting from Aitareya Aranyaka, that there are the Purush in the body, the Purush in the Vedic mantras, the Purusha in the Vedas per se, and the great Purush, the massive form of the Purush. So in this way there are four Purushas. This is further explained by Sri Radha Krishna Shastri, that this refers, again this is all very technical and it would require quite some technical research and application of one's intelligence to understand all these points. Radha Krishna Shastri explains that the Purush, or the Shariya Purush, refers to the soul or the Atma in the body of the Chaitanas of the consciousness. Then Chanda Purush is the Atma in the form. That means the Supreme Lord present in the consciousness, as far as I can understand here, of the consciousness of all individual living beings. Chanda Purush, he is the form of the Atma in the correctly pronounced mantras. The Veda Purush, the Supreme Lord, as the person present in the Vedas taken as a whole, and the Mahapurush, that means in the form of Kala, time. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushana, he gives the meaning that Chatuh-vyuha here means he who is established by the fourfold Vedas. And he quotes to support that. He who is in the form of the four divisions of speech, this is Satyadeva Vashishta. There are the three Vedas and ordinary speech. then he has another meaning, yet another meaning. He who has 4 kinds of greatness. Vyuha is here taken as greatness, and means that he has the greatness, or his mahimas, his glories of performing the functions of creation, destruction, with maintenance in between, simply as part of his pastimes. It's not that he has to go to work to do it, but it's part of his pastimes. Revealing the greatness of parabhakti, highest devotion, through his rasa pastimes, his dancing pastimes in Vrindavan with the gopis. The revelation of the relation between the Jivatma and the Paramatma by being the Lord of simultaneously of so many gopis. This is getting very sweet, isn't it? Very rasik. And he gives another example. He's giving, this is the author of the Dharma Chakra. There's one commentary on Vishnu Sahasranam, but the author's name is not given. It's just said Dharma Chakra. And he's giving another of the glories of the Supreme Lord. Out of the innumerable ones, he's selected these 4. And the 4th one is his calm acceptance of the curse of Gandhari. Gandhari saying, just as you have destroyed my whole family, your whole family will be destroyed. Krishna calmly accepted. And that, dear devotees, is what I have to say now. Following in the footsteps of the great acharyas on the name Chatuh-vyuha. May the Supreme Lord be glorified. Especially on Janmastami, there's so much glorification of He, but that should go on eternally by ourselves, by everyone. So let us glorify Him. We may be very small. He is very great. The great devotees are very great. But they have also asked us to engage in this Punya Shravana Kirtana. That is a name of the Lord in Vishnu Sahasranam. So on their order, we happily engage according to our very limited capacity. Yata Shruta, Yata Matihi. According to what I have heard and according to what I understand, I'm trying to speak on Sri Vishnu Sahasranam. So that's the name Chatuh-vyuha again in Vishnu Sahasranam, and I'll finish this talk here. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha dante nithaya churnakang padaya nipatya kritvacha kakushatameta aham bravimi. Hey sadhava sakala eva vihaya durat goranga chandra charne kurutanu ragaha parivadatu jano yata tata va nanumukaro navayang vicharayamaha hari rasa madira madati mata bhuvi vilutama nartama nirvishama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.